Good day, good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you when you're watching this. I hope you are having or have had a blessed day. Sorry. I just had Cantaloupe and is talking to me. Anyway. Chapters 31 and 32 today. 31 is lengthy. We will finish Numbers Monday. We got 36 chapters. Be in Deuteronomy next week. I've said it a couple times. I know Numbers isn't anyone's favorite. There's a lot of clans and things going on there. Remember what I said before we got to Numbers? In the first 5 books of the Bible, in the pantheon of the Bible, the first 5, this is our transition book, right? We were all about Moses and everything that happened as we left Egypt, and right? And then as we've gone through Numbers, right, Aaron has gone now. Moses is going, and we're about to go into the promised land, right, of milk and honey. Right? Yeah, so, you remember, Numbers is incredibly important in that it does lay out some things that are important later, but also in that it is a transitional book. It brings us from the beginnings of everything, right? Genesis, Noah, to the Exodus. And now we're getting into, right? We're getting out of, now we're getting into the rest, right? We get into, after Deuteronomy, we get into Joshua, right? We get into the rest. And so Numbers is very much a transitional book, and it does a great job of doing that. So give it its credit where it's due, you know. Pray today, pray every day, pray unceasingly. And the only way to pray unceasingly is to slowly but surely change your vocabulary. If everything that happens that is good or fortuitous, you call it lucky, then you're not ever going to be able to pray on it. You got to call that a blessing. And you got to see it as one. From the smallest thing to the biggest thing, right? It's all a blessing. And when you're praying, it's hard to ask for God for things. It's hard to talk to God about things. It's hard to shut up and listen after. Just don't let your will, right? Don't let your will superimpose itself. Don't let it be, you have convinced yourself that God is going to save this person in your life. That may not be God's will, it's your will. Don't let your will take over, right? Make sure to put your will in its place. Especially when you're talking to God and trying to listen, because if your will is driving what you think and believe, then God has no place to get his way in there and tell you what to actually think. You can't listen to God if you're steadily listening to yourself, right? Pray about all the things we ever talk about. Shut up and listen when you're done praying. Here I am, Lord. Here I am. Yeah. Alright, we're going to read 31 and 32. I'm not going to beat a lot of things up because 31 is fairly lengthy, and because I talked a lot yesterday. The Lord said to Moses, avenge the Israelites on the Midianites, and then you'll be gathered to your people. Told you we're about to lose Moses. Didn't I just say that? So Moses told the people, arm some men among you for the campaign to attack Midian, and to execute the Lord's vengeance on Midian. From each of the tribes of Israel you will send 1,000 men to the campaign. For the contingents of Israel, therefore, 1,000 men of each tribe were levied, so that there were 12,000 men armed for war. Moses sent them out on the campaign, 1,000 from each tribe, with Phinehas, son of Eleazar, the priest, for the campaign, who had with him the sacred vessels, and the trumpets for sounding the alarm. They waged war against the Midianites, and as the Lord had commanded Moses, and they killed every male. Besides those slain in battle, No. Beside those, my battery's low on my phone. I didn't know it till just then. It's not great. Anyway. Beside those slain in battle, they killed the kings of Midian. Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, the 5 kings of Midian, and they also killed Balaam, son of Beor, with a sword. But the Israelites took captive the women of the Midianites with their children, and all their herds and flocks and wealth as loot, while they set on fire the towns where they had settled, and all their encampments. Then they took all the plunder with the people and animals they had captured, and brought the captives, together with the spoils and plunder, to Moses and Eleazar the priest, and to the Israelite community at their camp on the plains of Moab, by the Jordan opposite Jericho. When Moses and Eleazar the priest, with all the leaders of the community, went outside of the camp to meet them, Moses became angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands, and the commanders of hundreds, who were returning from the military campaign. So you spared all the women, he explained. Yeah. Why was it a problem? At very first, why was it a problem? They were marrying, and then the women were getting the men to go do things they should have been doing, right? That's a couple chapters ago. Yeah. Moses is unhappy. You spared all the women, he exclaimed. These are the very ones who, Balaam's advice, were behind the Israelites' unfaithfulness to the Lord in the affair at Peor. That's what I was just talking about. Or maybe I should just shut up and let God do it. Yeah? So that the plague struck the Lord's community. Now kill, therefore, every male among the children, and kill every woman who has had sexual relations with a man. But you may spare for yourselves all the girls who have not had sexual relations. So in other words, all the little girls, right, we can raise them and teach them, and they will be us someday. Right? The boys, though. Boys grow up with vengeance in their heart. If they watch their daddy die when they grow up, they want to kill the man who killed him. So you kill all the boys. You kill all the men. And you kill all the women who've ever had sexual relations. Oh, it's because they're impure. No. No, it's because once they've had relations, they might have some kind of love there that can't be broken. They might be connected to that man in such a way that they will live the rest of their lives waiting for their opportunity for vengeance. Moreover, remain outside the camp for 7 days, every one of you, who has killed anyone or touched someone killed, will purify yourselves on the 3rd and the 7th day, both you and your captives. You will also purify every garment, every article of leather, every made of goat's hair, and every article of wood. Eleazar the priest told the soldiers who had taken part in the battle, "This is the prescribed ritual which the Lord has commanded Moses. Gold, silver, bronze, iron, tin, and lead, whatever can stand fire, you shall put into the fire, that it may become clean. You shall put anything that can withstand the fire into the fire so that it will become clean." Not purified, clean. This is important. When Jesus tells you that we must go through the fire to be purified, to be clean, to approach God, because when we die, we are not perfect. No Christianity teaches that you go straight to heaven after you die. Because the Bible says everybody has a particular judgment for themselves that day. But that none of us, right, there's only a handful ever that get a ticket. All of us have to wait till the last day, the day of judgment, when we all are judged, right? We get our individual judgment when we die, sure. But before you can go see God, you must be perfect as my Father is perfect. You remember that? It's in the New Testament, yeah? You cannot look upon my Father's faith until you are perfect as he is perfect. You cannot. When you die, you are not perfect. If you know a perfect human, you let me know. And if you think you know one, ooh, woe to you. Yeah. So why? So something has to purify us before we can stand before our God. Jesus Christ can judge us on our day. But before we can stand before the Father, we must be perfect. If you don't believe that there is a purgatory, where do you think all the people you love are at? What is happening with them? There's just a state of limbo till the end? Do you believe that? They're not in heaven or hell. They're just hanging out. Where? We, all of us, die with marks, right? Remember, we've talked about this before. I can drive nails through a piece of wood. I could take a board and I could put 25 nails in it. Each nail representing sin. And then I could pull every one of those nails out, representing forgiveness. Because we all sin, and because if we ask, we're all forgiven. If you talk to God and ask Him to forgive you, I believe you're forgiven. I know for a fact that you're forgiven somehow. I know that He forgives us because Christ said so. I don't need to know anything else. But if Christ forgives you, right, your sins, you've pulled the nails out of the board, the holes remain, right? This is the difference in temporal effects. Yeah? But that may be, maybe we won't go that way. Maybe we won't go that way. But do you understand the board? That the board has had all its sin removed, but it has 25 holes in it. Those holes cannot be filled up because you're forgiven your sin. We remove the sin by forgiving it. It's gone. But the hole has to be fixed too. That's what I believe purgatory is for. Now, I also believe that the more you suffer in this life, and everybody thinks they suffer, the vast majority of people in this country don't. And the ones that think they do, oh my, this and that. I pray that they never suffer, because if they think it is suffering now, for them to truly suffer would be impossible for them. Yeah. There has to be something that makes you perfect so you can stand before God. You can't do that. Right? I'm just going to leave it there, okay? So, but whatever cannot stand fire, you must put into the water. On the seventh day you will wash your garments, and then you will again be clean. After that you may enter the camp. The Lord said to Moses, with the help of Eleazar the priest and the heads of the ancestral houses of the community, inventory all the spoils captured, human being and beast alike, and then divide the spoils between the warriors who went on the campaign and the whole community. You will levy a tax for the Lord on the soldiers who went on the campaign, 1 out of every 500 persons. 1 out of every 500 persons, oxen, donkeys, and sheep. 1 out of 500. What would be a tenth? No, a lot more than one. Anyway, from their half, you will take it and give it to Elijah the priest as a contribution to the Lord. From Israelites' half, you will take 1 captive from every 50 human beings, oxen, donkeys, and sheep, all the animals, and give them to the Levites, who perform the duties of the Lord's tabernacle. Do you hear this? Not taking a tenth. It's not even close. Not taking 10%. And the percentage that is being taken isn't being taken to build the church. It isn't being taken to make the church bigger, welcome more. It's being taken to take care of those who take care of the church. That's who it's being given to. And that's what it's for. It's not to go educate every single person who wants to be a preacher or a reverend or it's not to make sure their retirement is okay. I'm sorry, but that's not what it's for. We have taken a lot of money that we say we're giving to the Lord and giving it to people, and God never even getting a smell of it. I think we have to be careful. That's all. All right, I'm sorry. I'm taking way too much time. This phone's going to die, and I'm just going to stop because I have screwed up here. I'm sorry. Anyway, this plunder, what is left over from the loot which the troops have taken, amounted to 675,000 sheep, 72,000 oxen, 61,000 donkeys, and 32,000 women who had not had relations. The half share that fell to those who had gone out of the campaign in this number, 307. Y'all don't need to know that. So, of which 72 fell as tax to the Lord. 36,000 oxen, of which 72 fell as tax to the Lord. 30,500 donkeys, 61 were taxed to the Lord. 16,000 people, 32 people were taxed to the Lord. Moses gave the taxes contributed to the Lord to Elijah the priest, exactly as the Lord had commanded Moses. As for the Israelites, half which Moses had taken of the men who had fallen, the community's half was 337,500 sheep, 36,000 oxen, 30,500 donkeys, and 16,000 people. From the Israelites' half, Moses took one captive from every 50, from human being and beast alike, and gave them to the Levites to perform the duties of the Lord's tabernacle exactly as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then those who were officers over the contingents of the army, commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds, they came up to Moses. They said, "Your servants have counted the soldiers under our command, and not one of us is missing. So we have brought as an offering to the Lord articles of gold that each of us has picked up. None of us died, so we're offering more stuff to God." Fair enough. Bracelets, rings, earrings, pendants, to make atonement for ourselves before the Lord. Moses, Elijah the priest, accepted the gold from them, all fashioned pieces. The gold that was given in contribution to the Lord from the commanders of thousands, commanders of hundreds, amounted in all to 16,750 shekels. What the common soldier had looted, each one kept for himself. So Moses, Elijah the priest, accepted the gold from the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, and put it in the tent of meeting as a reminder on behalf of the Israelites before God. I don't know if I finished yet. We're going to try. Chapter 32. Now the Reubenites and the Gadites had a very large number of livestock. Noticing that the land of Jazer and of Gilead was a place suited for livestock, they came to Moses and Elijah the priest, and as leaders of the community, and said, "The region of Adorath, Dibon, Jazer, Nimrah, Heshbon, Elal, Sebam, Nebo, and Balmeon, the land which the Lord has laid now low before the community of Israel, is a land for livestock, and your servants have livestock. If we find favor with you, let this land be given to your servants as their possession. Do not make us cross the Jordan." Moses answered them, "Are your kindred then to go to war while you remain here? Why do you wish to discourage the Israelites from crossing to the land the Lord has given them? That it is just what your ancestors did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to reconnoiter the land. They went up through the Wadi Eshkol and reconnoitered the land, then so discouraged the Israelites that they would not enter the land that the Lord had given them." Y'all remember that, right? Because that wasn't, we just read that the other day, right? Nose itching. I'm not going to go back over. We just read that the other day. I'm going to assume y'all are right there. At that time, the anger of the Lord flared up, and he swore, "None of the men 20 years or older more that have come up from Egypt will see the land I promised under oath to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, because they have not followed me unreservedly, except the Kenizzite Caleb, son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite, and Joshua, son of Nun, since they have followed the Lord unreservedly." So the anger of the Lord flared up against the Israelites, and they made them all wander in the wilderness for 40 years, until the whole generation that had done evil in the sight of the Lord had disappeared. And now here you are, offspring of sinful stock, rising up in your ancestors' place to add still more to the Lord's blazing anger against the Israelites. If you turn away from following him, he will again abandon them in the wilderness, and you will bring about the ruin of this entire people. But they approached him and said, we will only build sheepfolds here for our flocks and towns for our families. But we ourselves will march as troops in the vanguard before the Israelites, until we have led them to their destination. Meanwhile, our families will remain in the fortified towns because of the land's inhabitants. We will not return to our homes until all the Israelites have been taken possession of their heritage. But we will not claim any heritage with them across the Jordan and beyond, because we have received a heritage for ourselves on the eastern side of the Jordan. Go look up modern day eastern side of the Jordan and the other side of the Jordan. Go look up who lives where. And then come back and read this and understand it. I'm trying not to beat it up, but I'm trying to hurry, but understand it. It matters. Moses said to them in reply, if you do this, if you march as troops before the Lord into battle, and cross the Jordan in full force before the Lord until he has driven out his enemies out of his way, and the land is subdued before the Lord, then you may return here free from any obligation to the Lord and to Israel. And this land will be your possession before the Lord. But if you do not do this, you will have sinned against the Lord, and you can be sure that the consequences of your sin will overtake you. Build the towns then for your families, and the folds for your sheep and your flocks, but fulfill what you have promised. The Gadites and the Reubenites answered Moses, your servants will do as my Lord commands. While our wives and children, our livestock, and other animals reign in the towns of Gilead, all your servants will go across as armed troops before the Lord to battle, just as the Lord says. So Moses gave this command in their regard to Eleazar the priest, to Joshua son of Nun, and to the heads of the ancestral houses of the tribes of Israel. He said to them, if all the Gadites and Reubenites cross the Jordan with you in full force before the Lord into battle, and the land will be subdued before you, and you will give the Gilead as a possession, and you will give them Gilead as a possession, But if they will not go across in force with you before the Lord, you will bring their wives and children and livestock across before you into Canaan, and they will possess a holding among you in the land of Canaan. To this the Gadites and the Reubenites replied, we will do what the Lord has ordered your servants to do. We ourselves will go across in force before the Lord into the land of Canaan, but we will retain our heredity property on this side of the Jordan. So Moses gave them, the Gadites and the Reubenites, as well as half the tribe of Manasseh, son of Joseph, the kingdom of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and the kingdom of Og, king of Bashan, and the land with its towns, and the districts of surrounding towns. The Gadites rebuilt the cities of Dibon, Atrath, Arod, Ahoth, Shophan, Jazer, Jabahah, Beth Nimrah, and Beth Horon, fortified cities and sheepfolds. The Reubenites rebuilt Heshbon, Elilah, Kiratham, Nebo, Balmeon, names to be changed, and Sibmah. These towns which they rebuilt they called by their old names. The descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, went to Gilead and captured it, disposing the Amorites who were there. Moses gave Gilead to Machir, son of Manasseh, and he settled there. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, went and captured their tent villages, and called them Havoth Jair, or Havoth Jar. Nobah went and captured Kenath with its dependencies, and called it Nobah, after his own name. Now, Havoth Jair, that's just villages of Jair. In other words, he named after himself too. Alright, that's it. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. 33 and 34 tomorrow. I'll charge the phone between now and then. Have a beautiful and blessed day. Y'all pray. Pray unceasingly. Don't take my word for it when I talk about Mary and how important she was and how she deserves our adoration. Talk to Mary. Don't pray to Mary. Talk to Mary. Talk to Mary and see if you don't agree. Mary loves you. in such a unique way. She watched her son die for you. And she knew, right? And right before he died, he looked at her and he said, "Mother, behold your son. Son, behold your mother." Why didn't John say, he said, "John, behold your mother"? Because it wasn't about John. It was about every believer, every Christian. Greeks called us that first, not Christians. But stuck. It's a good name. Pray. Pray to God. Talk to God. Ask him questions. But when you're done with all that, be quiet. He can't respond if you're always talking. Shut up and listen. Shut your will up too. It don't get to decide either. That tears up more Christians than anything I've ever seen, I think. When they get to a point, yeah, their faith is strong and they love God. But someone gets sick in their family, and because their faith is strong, they love God, they convince themselves through their own will that God is going to save that person. And he doesn't. I mean, he did. If they had lived right and you're right about who they were, he did. Because he took them out of this life of suffering and took them to a life that doesn't involve any of that. Right? But God didn't fail you. You failed you. Right? Because you made it your will that God was going to do. That's not how this works. We have to allow God's will to be God's will. What does Christ say when he's about to be, when all the horrible things are about to happen to him? You know, God, take this cup from me, if it be your will. But no matter what, your will, not mine. Right? No matter what. No matter how bad it's going to be for me, God, your will, not mine. Your will, not mine. I love you. Jesus Christ loves you a lot more. Have a beautiful and blessed day.